Thank you, Christy. I've had just the most stressful day. My wife is trapped in Edinburgh at the moment. I'd say my children are trapped with the childminder, but anyone who knows my children know that it's actually the childminder who's trapped with my children. My fence is somewhere between Knapp Hill and Bagshot, and we're not 100% certain where it is. And all of this has happened on the day that we're launching our Centre for Management Learning. And I have to be honest and say, for a lot of today, I had that, why did we agree to do this? Why did we start doing this? Why is all this happening now? And then at lunchtime today, we had what I thought was going to be a relatively boring and kind of mundane meeting about an event that's coming up and how we need to think of something that we can do in order to showcase what we do in the business school. And it turned into just the most fantastic meeting. And in the meeting, there was myself, and I'm a political economist by training. There was, I think, a theologian who's become a strategist. There was our business manager, whose background is in theatre. There was a marketer. There was the director of our Insights Lab here, who is a psychologist turned problem solver. And what started off as a relatively mundane and quite boring meeting about what we could do in an event ended up with an idea for how we can utilise the knowledge and the skills and the expertise and the experience of some remarkable people who work in the business school and some remarkable students who study in the business school to solve a real-life social problem that's happening locally. And from my perspective, that's just one of the best illustrations of, I think, the spirit and the culture of a school that has, or will very shortly, give birth to a centre for management learning. So I spent a lot of time yesterday thinking, well, how can I contextualise the centre and explain where it fits in the school? And so I think I probably should be grateful for Storm Doris for kind of doing that for me. Let me talk a little bit about our centre and what we're going to do. Where are the dedicated scholars of management, education and learning is Arbor's question from last year. But it's a question that Christine has been asking in particular an awful lot over the last few months as we've been thinking about the centre and what we want the centre to do and how we want the centre to not only contribute to the life of the business school, but to contribute to the life of the university, and then even wider than that. There are scholars of management in the business school that do the most remarkable research, and the leading work we do in digital, in leadership, in decision making, in sustainability, in elements of finance that I'm not even sure the finance people really understand. And we have some amazing scholars in education across the university as well. And what this centre wants to do is bring those two things together. I think there are some very specific, in some ways peculiar challenges that we face as management educators that maybe academics in other disciplines don't always face. And this is the kind of thing that I want my centre to address, or I want our centre, Christine, to address. And we're going to try and do it by answering two questions. How should students learn about and learn to be managers and leaders? And the big word there for me, and it's in the title almost of our centre anyway, is how should people learn, not necessarily how should we teach. I'm not sure we're still in an educational era where teaching in higher education is the most important thing. I think we need to spend a lot of time thinking long and hard about the kind of students who we engage with and the kind of learning that really does work for those kind of students. And if we're thinking about our students doing things differently, then we have to think about what we do differently as professionals, as academics. So we want to think about our second question: how do we train, develop, support and motivate academic management educators to do this? And this is where we've got so far, I guess, in terms of our thinking around this. I've called this our developing pedagogy. This is what we want, in a sense, our programmes as a business school to look like. This is what we want our graduates, whether we're talking about 21-year-old undergraduates or whether we're talking about 45-year-old MBA graduates. We want to think about what they should be at the end of their programme in a slightly different way. I know this will make many people nervous. I'm becoming increasingly relaxed about the knowledge component of degree programs. I think it's absolutely important that students should know stuff when they leave, but I'm kind of relaxed about what they should know and how much they should know. We live in a world of ever more rapid change, so students leaving a degree program knowing an awful lot about what it means to be in a digital business probably means that in a year's time they know what it was like to be in a digital business a year ago, and the world will have moved on. Plus, there's so much more varied ways in which students can access that knowledge in any case. The idea of the expert at the front of the class talking a lot, as much as I love doing that, I'm not sure that that always works. But nevertheless, knowledge is important, and knowledge is a core component of it. I think what is becoming really important in management education is this notion around commerce and business acumen. When we talk to the employers who take on our graduates, when we talk to the businesses who we engage in our programs and who our students engage with, the two things that always come out in terms of the work that our graduates will do is they will be problem solvers. And as well as being problem solvers, they will be decision makers. But they'll be problem solvers where creativity is really, really important, and they'll be decision makers where they have to understand complexity, where they have to understand how you make decisions with imperfect and incomplete information, how you have to make decisions quickly and effectively, and we want to think about how we help students learn to do those things rather than just knowing about those kind of things. My view is what university should do is two things. It should help people understand what is going on in this crazy, complex, difficult world that we live in, but also what it should do is prepare you for the next 5 years of your life, whether you are 21 years old or whether you're 45 years old. And we think there's a whole bunch of life skills that we want students to take away from their education. We talk about things I guess you would often expect to see there around teamwork and leadership. More and more we see students who go out working in really diverse environments, but also thinking about negotiating and persuading and networking and trusting and building trust and so on. And so we have this vision of a different kind of set of outcomes almost for our management education, where knowledge is still part of it, but is just a part of it, and there's a whole bunch of really, really interesting things that we want to develop, so that when our students are asked that question, what do you know, they have an answer, but when they're asked the question of what can you do, they probably have some even more interesting answers because of the experience that they've had with us. So, how are we going to do it? We're going to be really, really scholarly. We're not a traditional research centre by any stretch of the imagination, but research is going to be a core part of what we do. And the people who are involved in the centre and the people who've worked with us over the last few years, I think have put some pretty solid research foundations in. We've published as a centre so far research around feedback, around motivations to learn, around expectations of learning, around positive learning environments, around thinking skills and critical skills, around how you organically create an environment in which students can excel. But they are very much the foundations, and what the centre is going to do is develop some things on top of these foundations. The stuff we already have in play, for example, is space and download learning. Real learning in a digital format that has real long-lasting impact on students. Thinking about how we can harness digital technology. About 4 years ago, I asked Lucy Evans, who I don't think is here, if she could just get me 5 years' worth of assessment data for the whole of the business school. And we were both astounded about how long it took to get 5 years' worth of assessment data because there was so much of it. We know so much more about our students now than we've ever known before, I think. And we now have the tools and techniques to really make use of that information. So we want to really have some hard analytics work done through this centre about where students are from, how that might impact on how they perform. How they perform might be impacted on the teaching model that they go through. How that might be impacted on when they learn, how they access digital technologies and so on and so forth. And obviously we want to think about decision making. How can we help students become better decision makers? So there's a research agenda. What that research agenda will filter into is, if it's not this already, then I think it will become, is the business school as what I call a teaching innovation lab. And this is as much a cultural, behavioural thing as it is a physical space. We're in the Business Insights Lab now, and I think this place and the work that goes on here will be core to that. But it's also about having a school that is not afraid to innovate in teaching, but innovations that are built on really solid evidence, built on really good applied research, that has a real impact on student experience. Working through our ideas that we've been developing with our Centre for Digital Economy and a bunch of other people around the T-shaped graduate. Graduates who have a breadth and a depth of knowledge, a breadth and a depth of skills. So we're going to do stuff around innovations in teaching, and we've got some programs, and Christine's going to talk about some of these programs in a little while. We're going to have the first accredited program, first credit-bearing program for practitioners to come and work in academia. If we want to bring business into our programs, we need to train and develop people from business to work in a very different intellectual and academic setting. We've got an enterprise program that Will Lanham-New is leading that is going to be absolutely immersive, open to all students across the university, eventually open to people from outside the university, that is immersive, that is activity-based, that's project-based, that allows students to, and allows participants to really understand how they can commercialise the knowledge, how they can monetize the technology maybe that they're developing in their science programs across the university. And we're going to have a program for sport. We know there is a link between employability and participation in sport. But what we don't really know is whether playing sport makes you more employable or whether the employable people play sport. And that's a thing to investigate on its own. But also to think about, well, how does sport, how do the skills of decision making, of leadership, of working under pressure that you may develop in your playing sport, how does that help you when you go out into the workplace, but also how does that help you when you come back into the classroom? So we're going to work with the Students' Union, we're going to work with the sports part, and we're going to work with anyone else across the university who wants to get involved in this. So we have a real programme agenda for the centre as well. My final kind of evangelical thing is I think these are the three principles that will hopefully govern what we do as a centre in the coming years. We want to shape, we don't just want to influence. We want to be a centre that has real impact on how students learn, not just here in our business school, in our university, but wider as well. There is no other centre in the UK at least that is doing things like that, so I think we have a real opportunity to lead that. We talk about it as participators, not spectators. This is the message I give to all of my students on their first day, that you don't lose weight by going to the gym and watching people on exercise bikes. You go lose weight by getting on the exercise bike yourself. This is a centre we want people to participate in, and the work that we do is about participating, because we will be critical, because that's what our research involves, but we want to be more than just critics, looking at what happens and telling people what's wrong with it. We want to be positive, we want to be active. So, my final thing is, where are the dedicated scholars of management education and learning? Hopefully here in our Centre for Management Learning. Thank you.